The internal rivalry between Pontiac and Chevrolet was something of a legend back when Pontiac was still building cars. Yes, Pontiac was still under the GM umbrella, but it was positioned as the cool, fast, and fun sibling. Pontiac was the Jägermeister, and Chevrolet was the Coors Light. But no matter what happened, Chevy always placed an emphasis on one cardinal rule. Nothing under their corporate umbrella could be faster than their sacred Corvette. And while Pontiac, who were the fathers of the muscle car, never really liked that rule, they always tried to push the envelope with their Trans Ams. And in 1991, with the end of the third-gen platform on the horizon, Pontiac commissioned a special limited production Firebird to dethrone the Corvette that had all the works done to it. We're talking about a crazy-built V8, a very stout suspension setup, and a peak horsepower figure that rivaled even the mighty ZR1, and that car was the Pontiac Firehawk. As we go into it, you will see about just how absolutely ridiculous the Pontiac Firehawk was. But we need to go over some background information first. The official name for the Pontiac Firehawk was the SLP Formula Firehawk. SLP stood for Street Legal Performance, which was a pre-built performance parts manufacturer owned and founded by Ed Hamburger. Ed was a real gearhead and a serial entrepreneur within the performance automotive space who got his start with Mopars and then parlayed that success into Hamburger's oil pans, which was a leading oil pan manufacturer. He sold both those companies and started his next venture, which was SLP in the late 1982. SLP burst onto the scene, offering specifically the General Motors product line with a focus on the third-gen Camaro and Firebird platforms, which were the first departure by GM into that 82nd era of wedge styling. According to the company's official history page, SLP were the first people to introduce a 50-state emissions legal performance package for these cars that not only increased performance but also improved overall fuel economy. This was no easy feat, and with the late 82nd, a stock V8 Firebird was barely making over 200 horsepower. So any performance increase was very much welcome. This SLP package happened to include a full exhaust with headers, a revised intake system, and a remapped tune, which resulted in a monstrous 50 horsepower gain over stock. These were serious power gains, and clearly, with this being 50 state legal, SLP got everybody's attention, even Pontiac's. Pontiac saw the absolute magic that SLP was working, and they figured if they could go ahead and offer a special order ultra-high performance Firebird that was faster than it had any business being, then that would turn into a way to improve public perception of the brand and show Pontiac's commitment to performance. SLP would go to work engineering and prototyping these cars, and they would have access to GM's proving grounds to perfect what would become the Firehawk. These cars would then be sold through a network of dealers as special order Firebirds that could be ordered new from a dealership with a warranty. It should be noted that these Firehawks were not featured in any official Pontiac adverts because they were sold as dealer partnerships and not technically on behalf of the manufacturer. Kind of similar to how Baldwin Motion sold their cars. But by 1991, SLP's R&D was done, and they were ready to bring their creation to market. The Firehawk was positioned as the ultimate performance offering from Pontiac, which meant that it came with an ultimate performance price tag of $40,000 or $51,989 with options, which was double the price of the top dog Trans Am GTA. So, what exactly made the Pontiac Firehawk worth all this money? Well, all these Firehawks were supposed to be built off of red Firebird formulas that served as the donor car, but all that extra money you were spending went into an extensively overhauled drivetrain. The 350 cubic inch GML 98 small block was still used as the base for the Firehawk, although it received a new set of ported heads, lightweight pistons, a forged crank, new connecting rods, a new intake, and a full free-flowing exhaust system. All this internal engine work paid off in dividends. Stock L98 would have made probably around 235 horsepower. The Firehawks, though, made a whopping 360 horsepower at near 400 lb-ft of torque. And the Firehawks' performance goodies didn't stop there. Gone was the automatic slush box that sat behind the 350 Firebird. and in its place was the 6-speed manual transmission from a C4 Corvette. Note, you couldn't even get a 350 inches the 3rd gen with a manual at all from the factory. So, this being a manual, let alone a 6-speed, was a big deal in itself. The Firehawk also received an aluminum drive shaft, a Dana 44 rear end, and even new axles to help handle the added brunt of this new SLP-built engine. With a curb weight of 3,400 pounds, the Firehawk could rip off an impressive 0 to 60 time of just 4.6 seconds, a low 13-second quarter-mile time, and the car could top out at about 160. These were base C4 Corvette killer numbers, and they even put the Firehawk, performance-wise, in a very similar class as the almighty C4 ZR1, and even some other more exotic cars of the time. And you might be wondering where that extra $10,000 plus in optional extras would go for the top trim Firehawk. Well, that got you a set of 4-piston brake calipers lifted directly off the Ferrari F40, a new lightweight aluminum hood, a Recaro driving seat, racing harnesses, a roll bar, and some other trick parts to get your Firehawk track ready. The 275 size tires that sat at all 4 corners of the Firehawk helped dramatically improve mechanical grip over the stock tires that the car would have come with. But they did make it more darty on public roads and over potholes and cracks, which according to period testing from a few publications including Car and Driver and Motor Trend, the Firehawk itself was a rather jarring experience to drive. It was visceral, raw, and in terms of ride quality or interior refinement, well, it just wasn't really there. But that was not what people were purchasing the Firehawk for. They bought this car to get themselves truly the only turnkey old-school type hot rod that you could buy at the time. Partially because this was an SLP product sold by Pontiac dealers, which let them skate certain regulations and tests when building the Firehawk, like the EPA's 50,000-mile emissions test. Still, though, with a $40,000 to $50,000 price tag for the Firebird, even if it did offer that awesome, visceral performance, it was still really close to Corvette ZR1 prices. And that car for the period was amazing, and generally a more livable car even though it had 2 less seats. Even though, performance-wise, in a lot of ways, the Firehawk was neck and neck with the ZR1, which is probably part of the reason that you haven't heard of the Firehawk until right now. With the Firehawk coming out in 1991 to 1992, this is around the time that the 3rd gen platform was also showing its age. Everyone knew underneath that these were still the same core car as the earliest 1,982 Firebirds were, just with some upgrades. And no matter what happened, that would still translate to poor sales throughout the entire Firebird range. People were losing the spark for the 3rd gen platform. So, a super expensive version of it, while it was still fast, was just an aging platform for a lot of people. Plus, the ZR1 Corvette was setting the world on fire at this point, and it definitely attracted more attention and purchases, mainly due to its availability as a GM-specific product and not just a dealer special order. There was just more marketing behind the ZR1, and by the time the 4th gen Firebird was introduced in 1993, just about 25 or so SLP Firehawks were built on the 3rd gen platform, which makes them incredibly rare. There were initial plans for SLP to build 250 cars, but that just never came to fruition. All the Firehawks were supposed to be painted in bright red. But it turns out a handful of the 25 cars got different colors, with one of them even being green. And while for a lot of people the 3rd gen Firebirds are like the red-headed stepchild of the Firebird line, I happen to love the lines of the 3rd gen in particular. Values for clean 3rd gens across the board are rapidly climbing, and with so few comparable sales out there, it's hard to gauge what the value of a Firehawk truly is now. But they trade hands so seldom that it probably doesn't even matter, and thankfully, that wasn't the end of the Firehawk though, because SLP would get a resurgence and be able to do a lot more with the Firehawk name in 1993 with the 4th gen platform. And that's a topic for a whole separate video. If you want to see that, leave a comment down below. But otherwise, thank you all for watching another episode of our Rare Cars documentary series. If you enjoyed this video, we would greatly appreciate it if you could drop a like and also share this video with other enthusiasts. Also, please make sure that you are subscribed to the Rare Cars YouTube channel and smash that notification bell for more documentary-style videos just like this on the world's most interesting cars. Until next time, enthusiasts.